Hey friends, what's happening? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Chavtes of Masechta Shabbis. Quick overview of the page. We are going to begin at... Wow, somebody's riding a motorbike. Why isn't he in his house? Instead, he's out making noise. Okay. Anyways, we're going to start with a discussion of Nolad, which we mentioned briefly yesterday, which is when something comes into existence on Yom Tiv that didn't exist before Yom Tiv. We're not going to get into too much depth. It's not like the sugyas in Masechta Beitza, but we're going to reference it a shtickle weiter, a little bit more. We are going to get back to our most beloved topic, which has really been a real crowd pleaser. Rags that are less than 3x3 tfachim. Okay. We are going to move on to the next Mishnah, which talks about different little technologies, little makeshift technologies that they deployed to try to extend the time that the candle would stay lit for. So we will discuss that. And we will conclude the daf with a discussion of Davar and miskavein, which is something that has come up in the past. So without further ado, let's get started. Daf Chav Ches Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom of the page. Here we go. What is this talking about? This is talking about the last thing that we spoke about yesterday, right? We had a Mishnah. In the Mishnah, there was a machlokas between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. If you take a garment and you fold it up and you did not singe it, okay? Rabbi Eliezer says that it is tmeya and you may not light with it. Rabbi Akiva says it's tahor and you may light with it. Let me just double check to make sure that I'm right. Yes, I am. Great. We explained what is the ukimta, what is the context where Rabbi Eliezer says that it would be that Rabbi Eliezer would say ein madlikin ba and Rabbi Akiva would say madlikin ba, and we said that it's talking about when you have a rag when you have a garment that is exactly 3 etzbos by 3 etzbos, okay, and it's talking about when it's on Yom Tov that falls out on Friday, and here's the point for us, that both Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer agree that it's talking about, right, they both agree that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda by Nolad, that if you have a kli that broke on Yom Tiv, you would not be able to put that kli under your food, let's say, or in whatever context, or in our case, to light Shabbos candles, you wouldn't be able to light with it on Yom Tiv. Even though you are allowed to sort of kindle from one flame to the next on Yom Tiv, if it was a kli that broke on Yom Tif, you wouldn't be able to use it. And then finally we said that, and they both agree with Ula that you have to, keep the flame on the wick until it's sort of lit majority of the way. But Beseder, we're focusing right now on the fact that we said, and who explained this? So it was Rabbi Elazar was involved in there somewhere, right? Yeah, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Yoshaya, v'chein Amar Rav Ada bar Hava, and similarly said Rav Ada bar Hava. So that is our question. That it would seem that Rav Ada bar Hava agrees that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that Nolad would be considered, right, something that's created on Yom Tif that didn't exist before Yom Tif. Nolad would be considered muksa, and you would not be able to light with it, okay? To have it, as the fuel for your fire. So when we become tired of Ada bar Hava alibud Rabbi Yehuda, from the fact that Rav Ada bar Hava is invoking Rabbi Yehuda in sort of explaining the machlokas between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer, so Shema min Rabbi Yehuda svirle. So it must mean that Rav Ada bar Hava holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Umi Amar Rav Ada bar Hava achi. But does Rav Ada bar Hava really hold like Rabbi Yehuda? To say that Nolad would be muksa and that it would be forbidden to use in the fire? Va'amar Rav Ada bar Hava, nachri shechakak kav bevikas. A non-Jew who etched out a receptacle the size of one kav. One kav, as we learned a few days ago, is 4 what's in one kav? One kav is there was four lugim, 4 logs, and each log is 6 beitzim. Anyway, so if a non-Jew takes a piece of wood and he etches out into it a receptacle that can hold a kav, okay, so Yisrael Masika b'Yom Tiv, a Jew would be allowed to put it in his fire on Yom Tiv. 1 second, Rav Bar Hava is saying that isn't that Nolad? This kli was just created on Yom Tiv. How can Rav Bar Hava say that a Jew would be able to burn it in his fire on Yom Tiv if he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, who would say that Nolad is muksa and you wouldn't be allowed to use it? So ve'amai, how come you can use it? Nolad who? So the Gemara answers, the Devreim Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Akiva ka'amar le v'leilo svir le. Rav Ada bar Ahava was just explaining the machlokas Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva and saying that they both agree with Rabbi Yehuda. That doesn't mean that he, Rav Ada bar Ahava, agrees that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. He would appear, I don't know who he would hold like. I mean, Reb Shimon seems to say that it would be potter, or maybe he would say it's takamutter. I'm not exactly sure. But in any event, he definitely would hold that a Jew would be allowed to use it in his fire. So, can't be like Rabbi Yehuda, who says that it would be muksa because it's nolad. Okie dokie. Rava Amar, Hainu Taimad Rabbi Eliezer. This is why Rabbi Eliezer says that you would not be allowed to light with this garment that's been folded up and singed. Well, quite simply because Rava says that Rabbi Eliezer holds that you would not light with a wick that hasn't first been singed. And because it hasn't been singed, that's why you can't use it. Simple as that. And not with rags that haven't been singed. Okay. But then the Gemara asks, Elahadutani Rav Yosef, but that which Rav Yosef taught, Gimel al Gimel mitzumtzamos l'mayilchasa. Right? Remember yesterday, when we explained the machlokas between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer to be referring to a garment that is exactly 3 etzbos by 3 etzbos, Rav Yosef was like, amazing! There was this Mishnah sitting somewhere in my memory that says something about 3 etzbos by 3 etzbos, but I could not for the life of me figure out what it was talking about. And now I realize that it's talking about the machlokas between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer. It's talking about a garment that's exactly 3 etzbos by 3 etzbos. However, according to Rava, the machlokas between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer is not talking about a garment of 3 etzbos by 3 etzbos. Well then, then what's Rav Yosef's Mishnah about 3 etzbos by 3 etzbos talking about? What's the context? So the Gemara answers, Le'inyan Tuma. It answers that Mishnah is regarding Tuma. What about it? Ditnan shalosh al shalosh she'amru chutz min amel divrei Reb Shimon v'chacham omim shalosh al shalosh mechuvanos. That there's machlokas between Reb Shimon and the chachamim. Reb Shimon says that when we say that a garment that's shalosh al shalosh, that's 3 etzbos by 3 etzbos, is tameh, it's not including the seam of the garment. It has to be 3 etzbos by 3 etzbos of like usable space, not including whatever part of that fabric would be included in the seam. Okay? Whereas the Chacham say no, it can even include whatever fabric is going to be used in the seam, and therefore even though the actual garment, once it's done being, sewn, is going to be less than 3 etzbos by 3 etzbos, because you're going to use some of it to fold over into the seam, nonetheless that would be considered significant enough to be mikabel tuma, as long as it initially had 3 etzbos by 3 etzbos before it was sewn. Let's go weiter in Chas, friends. Let's go weiter in Chas. Amar Yehuda Amar Rav. Said Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav. Masikin bechelim. Vein masikin beshivrei kelim. Div Rav Yehuda. Okay. So, Rav says that Rav Yehuda's opinion is that you are permitted to create to have a fire on Yom Tif, and to put into your fire on Yom Tif, kelim, vessels, maybe that includes clothing, but, complete kelim. But if on Yom Tif the vessel broke, or maybe the garment tore, or whatever it is, so then you would not be able to put it in, because that would be Nolad, as we've already learned. Reb Shimon Matir, boom, There you go. And Rabbi Shimon says it's mutar. Boom. It's mutar. And that would explain Ravada Bar Ahava's opinion earlier that you would be, if a non-Jew were to carve a receptacle into a kli, a Jew would be allowed to put it into his fire in Yom Tov because Rabbi Yehuda says it's mutar. Okay? Masikin b'tmarin. You would be allowed to throw dates into the fire. Ochlan ein masikin b'garinei and divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, but once you eat the flesh around the date and all you're left with is the pit, you would not be allowed to put that into your fire because that's nolad. Rabbi Shimon matir. Rabbi Shimon says it's no problem. It's no problem. Masikin be'gozim. You are permitted to throw nuts into your fire on Yom Tif, achlan. But if you ate them, ein masikin b'kliposei divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says you would not be allowed to throw the shells of the nuts into the fire. Rabbi Shimon matir. Rabbi Shimon says it's mutar. Okay, so we have 3 cases of nolad where Rabbi Yehuda says that it's asur to put into your fire, and Rabbi Shimon says that it's mutar to put into your fire. All of this, of course, being on Yom Tif. Now, the question is, how come we needed 3 cases? Wouldn't 1 case be enough? Utzricha. The Gemara says we need all 3 cases, lemaisa. Because if we would only have the first case of the receptacle and the broken of the kli and the broken kli, so be'ahika amar Rabbi Yehuda. So in that case, Rabbi Yehuda says that you would not be allowed to put the broken kli into the fire. Because the broken kli didn't exist before, right? I don't know. Let's say we're talking about epis. I don't know, some kind of plate that's made out of some kind of flammable material, I don't know, that you could put in the fire, okay? So, when it was a whole plate, so it didn't, there was no broken plate, didn't exist. When it broke, then there became a broken plate. So in that case, it's mamish nolad. So in that case, Rabbi Yehuda would say that you're not allowed to put it into the fire. Right? Be'ahika am Rabbi Yehuda mishum d'meikar kli v'ashta shever kli v'havle nolad v'aser aval tamarim. But what about in the case of dates? In the case of dates, the pits were there the whole time. Maybe they weren't visible, but they were there. Maybe d'meikar garin and v'hashta garin before the pit was there, and now the pit is still there. You could just see it now after you've eaten the date around it. So ema shaper dami. Maybe then Rabbi Yehuda would say that you would be allowed to put it into the fire because it wouldn't be considered nolad. Therefore, we had to teach that no, even there by dates, the pit would be considered nolad since it was inside the date and now you revealed it. V'yashminin garinin, and if we would have the case of the date pits, havamina d'meikar mechasin v'ashta migalyon, haval klipe agozim d'meikar migalu v'ashta migalu, ema shapirdami tzricha. However, I also need the third case of the nut shells, because I might think that Rabbi Yehuda only says that it's asur to put the date pits into the fire because you couldn't see the date pits before. All of a sudden now you can see them, so therefore it's nolad, right? But I might think that by the nuts, I was able to see their shell the entire time. Maybe Lamaisa I could throw it into the fire, according to Rabbi Yehuda, and it wouldn't be considered nolad. Kamash Malan, that Rabbi Yehuda would say that it would be considered nolad, you would not be allowed to put it into the fire, even by the shells of the nuts. The Gemara continues, V'had Rav, and that which Rav says, that according to Rabbi Yehuda, you would not be allowed to put date pits into a fire on Yom Tif. Lav b'feirush itmar. He didn't actually say that explicitly. Ela michlala itmar. It was implied by a story involving Rav. That Rav was eating dates on Yom Tif, and he was throwing the pits into an oven. Okay, he was eating dates, and there was an oven nearby, and that oven was going to need, and I guess, and it was during the week, Lamaisa, it was during the week. And I guess that the oven was going to need some fuel. So he was throwing the pits into the oven, and you would light that. Rabbi Chia, and what do you think that his uncle Rabbi Chia said to him? What does his uncle Rabbi Chia, what does Rabbi Chia always say to Rav? Bar pachte. So I always thought it meant a fool. I don't know. I mean, Rashi says ben gedolim. Possible maybe he's giving him shtickle musar, kilu. A ben gedolim is doing something so silly like this, right? Somebody who's the son of a great person is doing this. Kinegdo b'yom tiv aser. Or maybe he wasn't necessarily reprimanding him because after all it was during the week, so he wasn't doing anything wrong, right? But he was just pointing out at least, by the way, what you're doing is risky because if you do it on Yom Tov, it would be aser because these pits are nolad. Okay? So that's how we see. So Rav never actually apparently said that according to Rabbi Yehuda, with the date pits it would be considered nolad, but we do see that from the story with Rav and Rabbi Chia that the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda regarding nolad and putting nolad stuff in fires would apply to date pits. Kibla minei or lo kibla minei. Now, did Rav accept the opinion described by Rabbi Chia? I.e., how did Rav himself hold? Did he hold that the date pits would be considered nolad and he wouldn't be able to put it into the fire on Yom Tiv? Or maybe he holds like Reb Shimon would be mutter. So Tashma, Kamanir D'Chiyasa Rav LeBavel, or that when Rav arrived in Bavel from Eretz Yisrael, Achol Tamre V'Shada Kashasa L'Chevasa, he ate dates on Yom Tiv, and then he took the pits and he brought them over to the animals and he fed them to the animals. So we see that clearly it wasn't muksa. Clearly it wasn't muktzah. So it would sound like he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. No, the opposite. It sounds like it holds like Reb Shimon that these pits, even though you would think that according to Rabbi Yehuda, he would say it's nolad and it would be aser. You must hold like Reb Shimon, who says that it's mutter, and that's why he was able to walk them over to the animals and feed them to them. So my lab bifar siyasa. So Gemara says, Mistama, we're talking about Persian dates. Persian dates, it would be very easy when you ate them, it was easy to eat the flesh and you would just be left with the pit. And therefore, if Rav was walking over just the pits to these animals, so it must mean that he holds like Rabbi Shimon, that it's mutter. It's not right, that it's mutter to bring over these pits. Vilo kibla, which means that he doesn't hold like Rabbi Chia, that the halach is like Rabbi Yehuda to say that it's also because of nolad. Lo, ba'ar mi'asa. No, rather, it was talking about Aramean pits, dates. That with those dates, they were a little bit messier, that you would eat the flesh of the date, but there would still invariably be some amount of date on the pit. And therefore, hoil v'chazi agav imayu, since they are, it makes the pits, you can move them because they still have their mother on it, meaning they still have kilu, the date that the pits are kind of inside of, right? So it still has part of the date flesh on the pit, and because there's some food still there, that's why he was allowed to walk it over to animals. But if it would just be the pits themselves, Rav would say that it would be nolad and hold like Rabbi Yehuda that you would not be able to bring them over to the animals. Okay. Exciting stuff. Amalei Reb Shmuel bar Chana le Rav Yosef. So Reb Shmuel bar Chana asked Rav Yosef. Now, Rabbi Yehuda the Amar masikin bekelim ve'en masikin b'shivir kelim. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that you are allowed to put whole vessels to burn in the fire, but you wouldn't be able to use vessels that broke on Yom Tov because it would be nolad. But question, Kevin the adlik bu porta havale shivir kelim v'chima kamahapech b'yisur kamahapech. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, so great. So you take some whole kalim, some whole vessels, you put them in your fire. But once you put them in, they start burning. Then they become broken kalim, which means that then when you take your stick and you start, stoking the coals and stuff, you're stoking these broken kalim, which according to Rabbi Yehuda, wouldn't that be considered nolad and wouldn't it be muksa? So my answer is the Ovid Kidrav Masna. Well, a person needs to then do, according to Rabbi Yehuda, a person would have to do like Rav Masna. What does Rav Masna say? Rav Masna Amarav, Eitzim Shenashu Min Adeka L'Sana B'Yomtiv Marbe Eitzim Muchanin Umasikan. That if you have some wood that fell from a palm tree right into your oven on Yom Tov, how convenient. The only thing is that you clearly didn't set aside that wood before Yom Tiv because it was still in the tree. So it's muktzah. So if it falls into your fire, you're not really going to be able to stoke the coal so good because you got muktzah in there. So what you do is you just add some non-muktzah wood that you had already set aside before Yom Tiv, and then it makes it okay. So here also, according to Rabbi Yehuda, what would happen is you would put in some wood, or whatever it is, whatever kli it was, then it would break, and the next time you want to stoke the coals, you'd add some more non-muktzah wood to it, and then you'd be able to stoke the fire. Okay, very interesting. So basically, Bigadol, the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon regarding Nolad and the implications that it has for lighting, for putting it in your fire on Yom Tiv. Rav Amnuna Amar, Zakt Rav Amnuna, Hacha befachus mishlosha al shlosha askinan. Exciting stuff. So, it says Rav Amnuna that the machlokas in our Mishnah between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva regarding if this beged shekipla v'lo ivhava, this garment that you folded up and did not singe, Rabbi Yehuda, no, there's no Rabbi Yehuda Darin. Rabbi Eliezer says that it would be tmeya, and Rabbi Akiva says tehora, okay? So says Rav Amnuna, Hacha b'pachos mishlosha al shlosha askinan. Here we're talking about a piece of cloth that was less than 3 tfachim, not, let's suppose, 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim, okay? Umikule matlanios shanukan. And we're talking about mamish shmata, mamish a rag. V'az Rabbi Eliezer l'taimei, Rabbi Akiva l'taimei. And Rabbi Eliezer goes according to his reasoning, and Rabbi Akiva goes according to his reasoning. What does that mean? Ditnan, because we have a Mishnah. Pachos mishlosha al shlosha. If you have a rag that is less than 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim, sheskino lefakek boes hamerchatz, that you've put, that you're gonna use it to plug up the holes in the bath house. Kielu, they were like, water would come in to the bath via certain, tubes or holes or pipes, whatever, and you would use these rags to plug them up. Okay. Or you want to use this rag to, you have a hot pot, so you use the rag kilo as like whatever, those like gloves, those like mitts, so that you don't burn yourself. Okay. Or if you want to use those rags to clean up like the flour mill epis. Okay. So now, bein minamuchan uvein she'ein minamuchan, Tame Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. So Rabbi Eliezer says whether this rag was minamuchan or not minamuchan, we don't know what that means yet. We're going to find out what that means. We don't know what that means yet. So Rabbi Eliezer says that whether this rag was minamuchan or not, it's going to be tame. Okay, fine. Rabbi Yoshua Omer, says Rabbi Yoshua, bein minamuchan uvein shelo minamuchan tahor, that whether it's minamuchan or whether it's not minamuchan, it's going to be pure. Okay. Rabbi Akiva Omer, says the holy Rabbi Akiva, minamuchan tameh v'shlo minamuchan tahor, that if it's minamuchan, it's going to be tameh. If it's not minamuchan, then it's going to be tahor. Okay, let's start trying to figure out what this muchan and not muchan thing is. So for Amar Ula v'itemu Rabbi Bar Chana Amar Rabbi Yochanan, and says Ula, some say lemaisa it was Rabbi Bar Chana, the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, what did they say? No. Hakol modim, everyone agrees. Everyone. Who's everybody? Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yoshua. Zarko ba'ash b'divrei kotar, that if you took this rag that was less than 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim and chucked it in the garbage, everyone would agree that at that point it's tahor. That it, because it's not chashuv. It wouldn't be metame tumas begadim because it's not chashuv. Right? When it comes to tumas begadim, we've seen already a few times, I think, that an important ingredient is chashivas. That it has to be important. It has to be significant. If you take this rag and you chuck it in the garbage, it's not significant. So everyone would agree that it would be tahor. Okay? And if you took it and you put it in a box, like to save it for later, well then everyone would agree that even though it's less than 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim, it is tameh, or at least it's moksha l'kabel tumah, because you clearly care about it, that you put it in a box to save it for later. Okay, so where's the machlokas, no? So lo nechel ela shetila'o b'magod o shenicho la'achori adelis. You know where the machlokas is? The machlokas is when you hung it on some kind of like how do I should say? like some kind of pole that comes out of like the wall, and you like hang clothing on it. Yeah, what do you want me to tell you? It's some kind of pole that sticks out of the wall, and you hang clothing on it, and it seems to be okay. And the other option is that you put it behind a door. Okay, you didn't exactly put it in a box to save for later, but you didn't actually throw it in the garbage. There's these two in-between states. There's this magod, which is like this kind of pole that you would like stick it on, this rag, and the other one would be like you put it behind your door. Now, sticking it on this pole would be a little bit more chashuv than sticking it on behind your door. Okay, so it goes like in terms of chashivas, everyone agrees that if you put it in a box, then it would be chashuv and it would be mikabel tuma. If you put it on, then the next level from there in chashivas would be if you put it on this pole. The next level would be if you put it behind your door, and in both of those, that's where there's going to be the machlokas. And then everyone agrees that if you would throw it in the garbage, that it wouldn't be chashuv and it would be tar. Fine. Now, Rabbi Eliezer savar, so Rabbi Eliezer holds midelo zarko be'ashba daite ila ave. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, what's min amuchan? And what is shalom min amuchan? Min amuchan, right? Because he says bein min amuchan, bein shalom min amuchan, or she'eno min amuchan. Bein shalom min amuchan, he says that it's tahor. Okay. According to no, not tahor, tameh. According to Rabbi Eliezer, yeah, where am I? But it's definitely tameh. Right, Divrei Rabbi Eliezer, exactly, it would be tameh, bidiyuk. According to Rabbi Eliezer, whether it was min amuchan, whether it was she'eno min amuchan, it would be tameh. Okay? So, what's min amuchan? Min amuchan, when it's prepared, is talking about when you put it in a box. And she'lo min amuchan, when it's not prepared, is talking about sort of those lower levels of the magod, this pole, as well as this, if you put it behind the door. He says that those are all considered chashuv, and therefore in all those cases it would be makabel tuma. Okay? So Rabbi Eliezer savar midelo zarko ba'ashba daite love. Look, as long as you haven't thrown it into the garbage, then your das, your knowledge, your intention is upon it, and it's gonna, you care about it, it's chashuv, and it's gonna be makabel tuma. Umay kari le shalom min amuchan. Well, then, if you care about, let's say, this magod and this achori adelis, then why are you calling it shalom min amuchan? So the legabi kufsa lav muchanu, because compared to putting it in a box, that's like mamish as good as it gets. So compared to putting it in a box, it's not muchan. But compared to throwing it in the garbage, it is muchan. So beseder, it's significant, and it'll be makabel tuma. Weiter, Rabbi Yoshua. And according to Rabbi Yeshua, who says that bein min amuchan, bein she'eno min amuchan, it is tahor. Okay? So, what's min amuchan, what's she'eno min amuchan? So, she'eno min amuchan, when it's not prepared, so that's the garbage. Okay? When the garbage, it's not prepared, and therefore, it is tahor. Yeah, it's tahor, because you don't care about it. It's not chashuv. It's tahor. And even if it's min amuchan, if it is prepared, then that is just talking about when it's on the magod or it's on the achori adeles. But he says, from the fact that he didn't put it in a fancy box, then that means that he doesn't care about it, even if it's on a pole or behind the door. So then why does he call it muchan if it's not in the box? So the legabe ashba muchanu, because compared to the garbage, it's considered prepared when it's on the magod or on the achori adelis. But rest assured, in all three of those cases, when it's in the garbage and when it's on the magod and when it's on the achori adelis, he doesn't care about it, and therefore it's tahor. Okay. Rabbi Akiva, bitlo b'magod savak Rabbi Eliezer. So Rabbi Akiva, when it comes to this magod, this pole thing that he's putting it on, so then he holds like Rabbi Eliezer that it would be considered chashuv as if it was in a box, and therefore what? It would be tameh because he cares about it. But when you put it behind the door, sav like Rabbi Yoshua, he holds like Rabbi Yoshua who would say that it would be tahor because you don't care about it. V'hadar be Rabbi Akiva, and then Rabbi Akiva lemaise was choser. He changed his mind. Ligabe de Rabbi Yoshua. to hold like Rabbi Yeshua and say whether it's on this magod or whether it's achor yadelis, it is going to be tahor. And that's what we're seeing in the Mishnah, that when Rabbi Akiva says tahor, right? So, because he's holding like Rabbi Yeshua that whether it's min hamuchan, whether it's not min hamuchan, this rag, which is less than 3 tvachim by 3 tvachim, is going to be tahor. Mimai, how do we know that Rabbi Akiva changed his mind to hold like Rabbi Yeshua l'maaseh? So Amar Rava said, Rava midikatane psilas ha-beged. From the fact that the Mishnah says psilas ha-beged shekiplev lo hava, our Mishnah, so that means that what? My area detani psilas ha-beged less than psilas shel-beged. Why does it say a wick that's made from the garment? Why doesn't it say a wick that came from a garment? So my psilas ha-beged adayin begedu. That's psilas ha-beged, the beged, to show that it's still like a little bit chashuv. It's not mamish chashuv, it's not kilu munach bakufsa, but even, right, as if it was in a box, but even if it was on this pole, which is like a little bit chashuv, he holds like Rabbi Yoshua to say that it would be tahor. Kishmak. New Mishnah. So one second. So therefore, Rav Nuna says that the machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva is regarding that a garment, a fabric that is less than 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim. Rabbi Eliezer says it is tamei. Rabbi Akiva says it's tar. Zokt the Mishnah lo yikov adam shvofer shel beitza v'malena shemen v'yitnen al pi haner b'shvil shtei min hatefes. So the Mishnah says, the Tanna Kama says, that do not take an eggshell, okay, and I assume that it's talking about a cracked eggshell or an eggshell that you can put oil in it, okay, and don't pierce a hole in the bottom of it, v'malena shemen, and then fill it up with oil, v'nena al pi haner b'shvil shetei min hatefes, and then you'll put it, right? Adam Friedman gave us a photo of what their candles looked like, right? There was like almost like a lantern that you'd put oil in it, and there would be a wick at one end. Okay, so there was a place to put in the oil. So you fill up this candle full of oil, but you want it to be able to extend, even once that oil is used up. So you figured what you'll do is you'll fill up an eggshell with some oil, pierce a little hole in the bottom, and then the oil could just drip into the candle, so it can be sort of extending the life of the candle. Okay. So lo yikov adam shofer shel beitza v'malena shemen v'yitnen al pi haner b'shvil shtei min hatefes. Do not do that. Do not do this egg hack. So the reason is because we're concerned that you are going to extract some of the oil for your own personal use, and that would be mechabe because you're going to be shortening the amount of time that the candle could stay lit for by removing some of the oil from the egg. And even if you didn't use an egg, you used some kind of receptacle made out of earthenware. Now, earthenware kind of makes the oil disgusting, and you're not going to want to use it for anything. And therefore, maybe you can argue that if it's made out of earthenware, we don't have to be concerned about him taking out any of the oil because, it's ma'us, it's disgusting. But still, the Tanna Kama says, even if it's cheres, you wouldn't be able to do it. We're concerned about mechabe. Rabbi Yehuda matir. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't make this gezerah. He says it's fine. No problem. You could use the eggshell. We're not concerned about mechabe. However, if you would have already connected the egg to the candle in advance and you made it one kli, then it would be okay because it's all part of the same kli and it's fine. I guess just like we're not concerned that you're going to take oil out of the nair, out of the candle, we're also not concerned that you're going to take it out of the egg because it's all part of the candle and you're not going to go and take the oil out of the candle on Shabbos. I guess you'd be maybe more inclined to take oil out of something that's disconnected from the candle. Maybe you disassociate it with the candle, right? You wouldn't necessarily stop yourself, whereas it's connected to the candle and be like, oh wait, I really shouldn't be taking oil out of the candle on Shabbos. The Mishnah continues, Lo yimali adam kaira shel shemen. A person should not fill up a plate or a bowl with oil, v'yitnena b'tzad haner, and then just put this bowl right next to your candle. So you have your candle on your table. Don't take a bowl, fill it up with oil, and then kind of have the wick go from the candle into that bowl, so that it can also have kind of a much bigger amount of oil, because it's also going to be drawing oil from that bowl. And Rabbi Yehuda says that's also acceptable. Utsricha, says the Gemara. The Gemara says that we need all of these examples. We need the example of the egg. We need the example of the earthenware. We need the example of the bowl next to it. How come? Because if the only example that we had in the Mishnah was an eggshell that you filled with oil, that's the case where the Rabbanan said, hey, we better say that he's not allowed to do this. Because since it's not disgusting to take oil from that eggshell, somebody might lemaisa come and take some oil from the eggshell, and it'll be mechaber. But if you, instead of putting an eggshell there, you put an earthenware kli there, maybe the chacham would say that that's fine, because then it's going to make the oil disgusting, and you're not going to want to take it. So maybe in that case, it could be acceptable. You don't have to worry about mechaber. So kamash malan, that no, it even applies to when there is when the receptacle is made out of earthenware. Chacham still say don't do it. And if the only example we had in the Mishnah was of earthenware, well then b'haka amar Rabbi Yehuda, that's where Rabbi Yehuda says that it's mutter because the oil gets disgusting. You're not going to want to take it. Aval be'ahi ema modi lehu l'Rabbanan. But when it comes to the eggshell, where the oil is just fine when it's in the eggshell, so maybe the Rabbi Yehuda would say we do have to be concerned that somebody's going to take from it, and therefore the Mishnah had to say no, in the eggshell as well. Rabbi Yehuda would say it's mutter. That's why we need both the eggshell and the earthenware to show that both the Rabbanan and Rabbi Yehuda maintain their respective opinions for both of them. And if we would only have the eggshell and the earthenware, but we didn't list the bowl next to the oil, next to the candle. So bahani ka'amar Rabbi Yehuda mishum delo mifsak. So I might think that only in these two cases where you create like this Frankenstein candle with the eggshell or the earthenware vessel on top, that's where Rabbi Yehuda says that it's mutter, because it's all connected to the candle. So you'll see, it's connected to the candle. He's not concerned that people are going to take some of the oil. But in the case of the bowl that's next to the oil, that's next to the candle, so in that case, I might be more inclined to take some oil from that bowl. It's not even like connected to the candle. So maybe Rabbi Yehuda would say there that it's not allowed. No, you would say that even there it's not. Okay, so then maybe just give that case. And if we only have the case of the bowl, so be'ahi kamar Rabbanan, that's where the Rabbanan say that it is forbidden because it's mamash a completely separate kli. But I might think that in the first two cases, by the eggshell and the earthenware kli that are mamish like on top of the candle, maybe they would agree with Rabbi Yehuda that we don't have to worry about mechaber because it'll be clear and people won't take from it. No, they even say over there that it wouldn't be allowed. So that's why we needed all of the cases in that Mishnah. So the Mishnah had said that if whoever is creating, right, if the person, I guess, if the craftsman who is making this candle makes it with this eggshell connected to it, or with this earthenware connected to it, so then it would be mutter to use the eggshell or the earthenware because it's the same kli. Tana, we learn in the Brayse, Mechibra besidu v'charis is mutter. If Ep is just a regular guy, if just the balabayas connected the egg or the earthenware to the candle, and he connected it with lime or with clay, mutter, then it would be permitted. 1 second, but we said, if the craftsman, if the artisan, if the professional connected the eggshell or the earthenware to the candle, then it would be acceptable. But not just any random balabayas. Mayotzer ke'ein yotzer. No. What does it mean when it says the creator? It doesn't mamish mean the creator. It just means like the creator. Meaning, even just a regular homeowner who is putting on his artisan hat and making this Frankenstein candle, that would be enough. And if he connects them with clay or with lime that would be fine. Or plaster. Sorry, I was saying lime, I think it's plaster. Okay. Tanya, we learned in a brisa. Rabbi Yehuda said, Rabbi Yehuda, Pam achas shabasnu ba'aliyas beis nitzah belud. Oh, one time we spent Shabbos in the loft of Beit Nitzah in Lud. Now, Rabbi Yehuda is buried like near Tzfas area, so I don't know if he lived maybe in the north of Israel, but one time I guess he was in central Israel, in the Merkaz, for Shabbos, in Lud. And Rabbi Yehuda says, and guess what? They brought for us an eggshell. Umila'anua shemen v'nakavnua v'nachnua al pi haner. And guess what we did? Exactly what's described in the Mishnah. We took that eggshell, we put oil in it, we put a hole in the bottom, put it right on top of the ner. We didn't even connect it. We didn't even make it one kli. And guess what? Rabbi Tarfon was over there, and the other elders were over there. They didn't say gornish to us. They didn't say anything to us. So Rabbi Yehuda wanted to bring that as a proof that he's right. Listen to me. I mean, I could tell you this story. We even saw a few, days ago or weeks ago, who can remember, that thing about Ma'aseh Rav with Reb Shimon ben Gamliel talking about what they would do in his father's household with that wick that they would wrap around the nut, right? We said that Ma'aseh Rav trumps everything else. So Rabbi Yehuda is trying to argue, look, I could tell you a story where this is what we did. And Rabbi Tarfon was there. Nobody said anything. Amrullah, they said to Rabbi Yehuda, Misham Raya, are you really going to bring a proof from there? Shiny Beis Nitzah, this reasoning. By Beis Nitzah, it was different because they're very fastidious. They're very particular. And they would make sure not to take out any oil from that egg, which is interesting. There's a halacha not to, Mishnah says, Lo yikov adam shofer shel beitza, etc. And we're saying, but it's okay if you're like really, makpid. What happened to low plug? What happened to rules are rules? I don't know the answer. Let's go weiter in Shas. Oven Sipora. Oven from Sipori. Garar Safsila Be'ilisa Deshisha. He was dragging a bench on a loft that was made out of, that the floor was made out of marble. So clearly there was no issue of making a furrow in the marble. It's a hard marble, it's stone. So, or rock, whatever it is. Le'elam Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar and Oven Sipora, he did this in front of Rabbi Yitzchak, the son of Elazar. Amar le, and Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar said to Oven from Sipori, Ishasuke lach, if I just stay here and don't say anything to you, Kidishtiku lechevraya Rabbi Yehuda, like all those rabbis over there in Lud were quiet when Rabbi Yehuda filled up that eggshell with oil, Nafik mine churva, something terrible would happen. People would think that Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar said that you're allowed to drag a bench on Shabbos, that we hold like Reb Shimon, that Davar miskavein is mutter. And therefore, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar, who held like Rabbi Yehuda, that Davar miskavein is usher, he felt that he can't sit there quietly and allow Oven Sipora to drag this bench, even though it was a marble floor and there was no concern about making a furrow. Gezerah Elisa Deshisha Atu Elisa de Alma, because we're concerned about. Is Elisa? What is Elisa? I thought it was maybe like a loft. But maybe then it isn't a loft. But we make a gezerah by basically the point is that we maybe it just means a floor made out of marble. But what Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar was saying is that even though this floor is made out of marble, you're still not allowed to do it as a gezerah for when the floor is made out of earth, because Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar held like Rabbi Yehuda that Davar miskavein is usher, and therefore you would not be allowed to drag a bench on an earth floor, on the earth, because you might make a furrow. And therefore he said to Rabbi Oven bar Tzipori that he can't even do that on a marble floor where there's no practical concern. And it sounds like that story with Rabbi Yehuda really made its rounds. The story when he thought that since, I guess that was the standard that people would assume that you have to speak up against something, otherwise it's going to be like that story with Rabbi Yehuda where he thought that the rabbis were silently acquiescing. Alright? Says the Gemara, Reish Knishta de Botzra Garar Safsala le'elam Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba. So the head of the assembly of the Knesset, the base Knesset, the head of the Knesset in Botzra, he dragged a bench in front of Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba. Okay. Amalei Kaman. Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba then said to this Reish Knishta, he said, why are you dragging this bench? Who said you could drag this bench? Ki Reb Shimon? Do you think that you are dragging this bench because you hold like Reb Shimon who says that it's Davar she'en miskavein is mutter? Eimar do Amr Reb Shimon bigdolim. I'll say that Reb Shimon only says that Davar she'en miskavein is mutter bigdolim de lo efshar, because what are you going to do? What are you going to do, Lemaisa? What are you going to do, Lemaisa? It's a big bench. If you want to move it, you're going to have to drag it on the floor, and maybe it'll make a furrow, maybe it won't. So Reb Shimon says, look, Davar she'en miskavein is mutter. But b'ktana miyamar, if it's a small bench that you could just pick up, he wouldn't say that you'd be allowed to drag it in that case. Just pick it up. Ufliga de'ula. Now, Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba is arguing on Ula, because Ula actually says just the opposite in terms of where the machlok is between Reb Shimon, who says the Davar she'en miskavein is mutter, and Rabbi Yehuda, who says the Davar she'en miskavein is aser, is, right? So Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba said that the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon is only by a large bench, but by a small bench, everyone would agree that you just pick up the thing, and you wouldn't be able to drag it on the floor. But that argues on Ula, the Amar Ula machlokes biktanim, that he says that dafka the machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda is by a small bench, that Rabbi Shimon would say that you would be allowed to pick it up. No, not pick it up. You would be allowed to drag it, because it's Davar she'en miskavein. And Rabbi Yehuda says that you would not be allowed to drag it, also because it's Davar she'en miskavein. They just argue about if it's mutter or aser. Aval bigdolim divrei hakol mutter. But if it's a large bench, even Rabbi Yehuda would agree that it's mutter, because in that case, what are you going to do? You can't pick up the bench. So he says, look, I guess he admits in that case, look, since you don't have a choice, Davar she'en miskavein might be okay, I guess. Masav Rav Yosef. Now, Rav Yosef has a kasha. Reb Shimon Omer, says Reb Shimon, he's quoting Reb Shimon. Gorer Adam, a person is allowed to drag mita kisei v'safsol. Wow. He basically gives the whole spectrum from big to small, right? A mita, a bed, which is a large item, a kisei, a chair, which is a smaller item, and a safsal, which is a bench. Uvilvad shelo yiskaven lasos charetz, as long as your kavana is not to make a furrow, i.e. it's a Davar she'en miskavein, right? It's not guaranteed that it's going to make a furrow. It may or it may not. And as long as your kavana, your intention is not to make a furrow, it would be acceptable. Katani gedolim, katani ketanim. And Reb Shimon himself is giving examples of large items and small items. So it would appear that Reb Shimon holds his position both by large and small items, which is at least going to be a machlokes on Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba, who says that Reb Shimon would not say it by small, is his opinion by small items. So kasha l'tarvayu. Oh, so the Gemara wants to say that Lemaisa it's a kasha on both of them, really, right? Because he says that it's by big and small, and not just by one of them, right? Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba says that Reb Shimon was kind of saying his opinion only by large items. Ula was saying that Reb Shimon says his opinion only by small items, right? Particularly by small items, but everyone would agree regarding large ones. So Ula mataritz the time, Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba mataritz the time. Look, at the end of the day, Ula is able to say how it's really no problem for him, and Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba is able to say it's no problem for him. Ula mataritz the time. Ula can explain according to his reasoning. Remember, Ula's position is that the machlokes is by small objects, but by large objects, everyone agrees it would be mutar. So mita dumya dekisei. He says, look, this machlokes between Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda is davka. When he says a mita, a bed, it's not a large bed. It's a small bed, right? A bed that's similar to a chair in that it's small, okay? And that's where Reb Shimon is saying his opinion. Reb Yirmiyah Rabba mataritz l'taime, and Reb Yirmiyah Rabba explains according to his reasoning, where he says that the machlokes is davka by large items. Kise dumya demita. We're talking about a chair that's similar to a bed, i.e. they're all large items, including the chair. Biseder. Fine. Okay, fine. So Ula and Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba were able to come out unharmed in their notions. But we're going to see that that's not necessarily going to last much longer. Masif Rabba Asakasha. Mochre Ksus. People who are selling clothing. And if they're selling clothing, what if they're selling clothing that's shatnez? Hopefully they're not selling it to Yidden. Or maybe there are purposes that you're allowed to use it for. But whatever it is, if you have people selling clothing that's shatnez, and they're going to want to put it on to show what it looks like. So Mochrin Kedarkan, they're allowed to sell it normally, right? Or at least, maybe even not necessarily to show what it looks like, but at least to show people that this is what they're selling. So even though it's made out of shatnez, you could put it on. As long as your kavana is not, in the summer to protect you from the sun, and in the winter to protect you from the rain. I.e., it's a davar she'eino miskavein. Right? Meaning, in the summer, you could put on the shatnez, as long as, look, you're not necessarily going to be getting hana from it. Right? So as long as your intention is not to get hana from it, so it's fine. Even if it happens to be the fact that it's sunny out and it's going to be protecting you, that's fine. As long as you don't want to get the hana. Although I guess that maybe you also want to make sure that it's not a psik reisha. I mean, you want to make sure that you're dead. But I guess it's the case, so you're not necessarily getting protection from the sun. Maybe it's not so sunny out or something like that. Or maybe you're going to be in the shade. Whatever it is. So you might not necessarily get hana. So as long as your intention is not to get hana, it would be acceptable. V'atznuin mafshilim b'makal achoren. But the people who are tsanua, the people who are, tsanua generally is modest, but I think in this case it probably means the people who are, extra strict upon themselves, so they're not going to put it on at all. They're going to mafshilim b'makal achoren. They'll put it on some kind of a stick and put it behind them, and people could see that they're selling these things like that. And over here, we're saying by the shatnez that clearly there is an option to just put it on a pole and put it behind you without having to wear it and getting hana from it. And yet we're still saying that if you don't want to be the tznuin, you could put it on as long as your kavana is not to get hana from it. So, i.e., davar she'eino miskavein is mutter, which means that this must be Rabbi Shimon. And we're saying that even though you could put it on this stick, you don't have to. So here also, implying by the bench, even by a small bench, where you could pick it up and avoid dragging it, it would be fine, because it's a davar she'eino miskavein and it's mutter. So, right? V'chi lo miskavein shari Rabbi Shimon l'chatchila. And as long as his kavana is not to get enough from it, so you can get, so it's permitted l'chatchila, which would mean that Rabbi Shimon would say that also the bench, a small bench is mutter. Tiyufta Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba. Tiyufta, this is clearly a kasha for Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba, and that is the end of that, right? Because Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba says that Rabbi Shimon would say that by a small bench, you would not be allowed to drag it, but it would appear that Rabbi Shimon says kind of globally that as if it's a davar she'eino miskavein, it's permitted. Okay, that was daf chavtes of Masechta Shabbos. It wasn't the easiest daf, but it was a good daf. It was good. So let's just recap. We started off with discussions of Nolad and how that applies to making a fire with things that were created on Yom Tiv. Rabbi Yehuda says that you would not be allowed to to fuel your fire with things created on Yom Tiv. They would be considered muksa. Rabbi Shimon says it's fine, it's mutar, it's 100% acceptable to use these things created on Yom Tiv for fuel for your fire. We got then into that discussion, right? We had Rav Amnuna's opinion that our Mishnah, the machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer regarding these bigadim that are tameh or tahor, are when they are rags that are less than 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim. Rabbi Eliezer says that, so first of all, we said that everyone agrees that if it's in a box, it's going to be considered chashuv and it's going to be tameh. If it's in the garbage, then it's considered not chashuv and it's going to be tahor. Machlokes is when it's sort of in these in-between states, right? Such as if you hang it up on some kind of a pole or if you put it behind your door. So Rabbi Eliezer says, in any case, you are going to be it's going to be tameh. Rabbi Yeshua says in either case it's going to be tahor. No, Rabbi Yeshua says, I don't know if I said Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yeshua says in either case it's going to be tahor. Rabbi Akiva initially said that when you put it on that pole, it would be tahor or tameh, and when you put it on the behind the door, it would be tahor. But then he agreed with Rabbi Yeshua that in both cases it would be tahor. Then we started on with a new Mishnah about can you sort of put extra oil in an eggshell so that it can kind of drip into the candle and it'll stay lit for longer. So we also talked about what if you put it in earthenware, what if you put it in a bowl that's next to it. Rabbi Yehuda's opinion throughout was that it would be acceptable. He doesn't make the gezerah to say that it wouldn't be allowed, but the Chacham seem to say that it's not allowed. Okay? And then at the end we get into discussion about Davar she'eino miskavein. When you do something on Shabbos that may result in a melacha being done, but also may not result in a melacha being done. Can you just do it without kavanah to do the malacha, even though it might happen? Rabbi Shimon says, yes, you may, it's mutter. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, you may not. And we see that Rabbi Shimon's opinion is sort of, in any case, he says it globally. Whenever there's a davar she'eino miskavein, it's mutter. Okay, that was Daf Chavtes of Masechta Shabbos. Hope everybody enjoyed. Peace.